You did good, sir.
Pimpin' hoes, ride clean, smoking dope. To my main bitch, pussy soaking and she give me throat. Living with no cane, it's the main with them diamond rings. Strapped up with that thing for a lane to blow up their brain. Cruising like a Mac, whether we pillin' up like you the Mavis. Bitches they want me to save them, nah. Fuck them and put them in labor, nah. Creepin' with one in the chamber, smoke a cigarette like crack. Cut the maniac, took this hoe down to the track. You know I'm running than a 504, at 504. Yeah, back at home and like support. Try not to snore. I should fly some bitches down in a 504. Okay. 4 or 5 days later, lay the alligator. I'm ready to think about when the next tour. From a corn in my shed, they're having like 3 roofs over my head. We'll be leveled up. I got like 6 whips, I don't need the keys to the roller truck anymore. Watching the palm trees, swinging that breeze, and open up peace. I hope there's plenty more.
Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Cut Chronicles. Firstly, thank you to everybody who showed support on the first episode. It's so nice to be able to document my journey, but it also means the world that there are people who care to watch and support and follow along. So, thank you so much. Right, so one of the first criticisms that I got of the first video was that you guys actually wanted to understand some of the breakdown of one of my workouts. So that's what we're going to do today, but I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm just going to actually explain in depth certain movements and why. So when I first started training, I really struggled to grow my back, and that was for the most part because I genuinely couldn't see my back. I found it very difficult to have a mind to muscle connection with something that I couldn't see. And also when I first started training, I wasn't really confident enough to film my back in the gym. And so I just wasted a lot of time thinking I was doing the right movements when actually I was definitely not. So I'm going to take some take you guys along with me to the gym, and I'm going to explain 4 back movements that I wish I knew when I first started training. And also the reason why I do them in that particular order. So hopefully you guys can learn something, and I can bestow some wisdom upon you guys so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did when I first started training. Yeah, and let me know in the comment section below if you guys found this video helpful or beneficial in any way. I'd love to hear from you guys. So I'm gonna take some not this is just sweet goodness, but we're gonna take some actual head to the gym, and we'll see you guys there.
Think of a square? Okay.
So now I'm thinking of it. Yeah, okay, no, I get it now. Yeah, no. Geometry. Sorry, I had a South African upbringing, bro. The education system's a bit in the toilet, so. Okay, cheers, man.
Fine.
Alright, I'll check you soon.
I won't distract you anymore.
No, it's all good, bro. All for the vlog. Alright, boys and girls, we have made it to the gym. As you saw, I was just doing 1 or 2 warm-up movements. That was one thing that I definitely didn't do enough of when I first started training, and that was actually take 5 to 10 minutes in the beginning of your session to just warm up the back, like do a few pull-ups, right, slow and steady, as opposed to just going straight into heavy movements and not actually waking up your muscles and just saying, you know, let's start training. So pull-ups are a great movement. If you can do body weight, I highly suggest that you warm up with a few of those. If you can't, the assisted pull-up machine is there for a reason, all right? I started doing pull-ups on those when I couldn't. Originally, just do body weight pull-ups, right? Don't think that you're less or smaller of a person because you're doing assisted. The whole main point of doing a pull-up is so that you're activating the correct muscles. Warm up with also just doing a little bit of some like rotator cuff like squeezes. I'm not actually 100% sure what they're called, but it was those first things that I was doing where I was just like activating the scapula. That's the word, scapular retractions. All right, just waking up the pulling movement. So first movement, all right, that I wish that I knew sooner and wish that I did in the beginning of my training more was actually starting with a lat pull down. Now, it's the basics, all right? A lat pull down is very well known in all gym bros movements, okay? But there's one or two changes that I wish that I knew in the beginning. And that was one, starting with the neutral grip, and two, going for a cable instead of plate loaded lat machine. When I first started training, I would just go straight into the plate loaded one and just see how many plates I could move. Now, if you're in the beginning stages of your training career, like you obviously are gassed up to move as much weight as possible, and that's a lot of fun, right? Constant PRs, it's good. But I am a sucker for anything that revolves around time under tension. And I feel like once you mature a little bit more in the gym, you also get to know that time under tension will be your best friend, right? If you're looking for exercises that involve the most amount of tension, cables come in handy every single time, okay? The reason why I decided to rather go for a neutral grip as opposed to a pronated grip to begin with is because in the neutral position, you are stronger, you get a better stretch, and you get a better squeeze. Why? Because when you're in the neutral position, all right, you're able to get the same stretch as in when you're in a pronated grip. But when you get down to the bottom, all right, you're actually able to dig your elbow further down towards your waist, all right? And I think a lot of people forget about that portion of the movement when they're doing back exercises, all right? The stretch is a great place, but there are two very important points when moving weight around, okay? There's the most stretched position and the most contracted position. Don't neglect the most contracted position, all right? There's a lot of gains to be made in that position, okay? So we're gonna start off with that. It's a nice, secure movement, right? And because of that, you're not putting a lot of pressure or stress on any other portion of your body, all right? You're locked, you're loaded, you're able to focus on range of motion and get that locked in. When I first started training, I would always go for a movement in the beginning that was the most taxing, but also that was probably the most dangerous, and that was deadlifts, all right? Too much stress on the body straight away. Combine that with not warming up properly, and it is just a recipe for disaster, okay? Lat pull downs, great movement to start off with, okay? You're gonna focus solely on the lats. There's a reason why like all the top bodybuilders do it. First movement, we're gonna work up to a top set, all right, of around 8 to 12 reps. And then after that, we're going to do a back off set with 70% of the top weight, right? So if you're doing 100 on the cables, right, you're gonna drop it down to 70 kilograms, and then you're gonna try get slow and controlled, eccentric, focused reps of about 12 to pushing to 20. All right, so let's get into it. I feel like in this lighting I look super pale, but we're gonna keep rolling. So the second exercise that I wish that I did sooner in my training was not a particular exercise, it's just an overall concept that I wish that I did more of, and that was unilateral training. All right, so unilateral basically means one arm at a time. Now, first started training, at this point in the workout, I probably would have done something like rack pulls, which would have been a second barbell heavy movement, as opposed to actually continuing to isolate muscles individually. All right, so we started off with the cable double hand. pull down, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to switch to a unilateral movement. It should be single, right? We've started with the neutral. Now I'm going to kind of follow through more with a pronated grip. So palms facing the ground. And basically what this is just going to allow me to do is just power through and focus on one side at a time. Okay. That way, after this movement, I've targeted the lats twice, both unilaterally and with both hands. Okay. So there's strength and power coming through when I'm using both hands. And then there's also isolated, focused movements when I'm using one arm at a time. All right. A top tip when you are doing unilateral rows like this is always put your rowing hand's foot, so the leading leg, forward. And the other one is going to be off the pad. All right. So if I'm doing the right hand side here, okay, I'm going to put my leading leg onto the platform. And then that way that I'm rowing, when I get to this point in the movement, my lats are already engaged. So from here all the way through to here, I'm just getting extra squeeze on the muscle. Now, a lot of optimal trainers like to suggest that you put the other leg up, and that way you're able to get more of a stretch because you're actually twisting your whole body and you're stretching more of the lat. I don't really go for that because I don't feel as strong in this position as I do when my leading leg is forward. All right, that way, right, I know I'm getting the correct stretch. And from here all the way through there is just extra squeeze and tension on the muscle. All right. Again, we are going for cables purely for the time under tension element that it provides. All right. Throughout the entire movement, there is tension on my lats. All right. In the stretch, I'm able to control it more, feel my lats more. And then in the squeeze as well, I'm able to focus on digging that elbow towards my waist and then through and behind my back. Again, just like the first movement, we're going to go for one heavy top set of around 6 to 8 reps. And then after that, we're going to do a back off set of about 10 to 15 reps, right? Really focusing on the eccentric, right? This is a great opportunity to get extra stretch on your lats, all right? Another important point as to why we do horizontal unilateral movements is so that after this exercise, I have hit my lats both vertically and horizontally. Okay, so you're hitting your back from all angles. Okay, this is a brilliant movement. I really wish that I started doing this more. Okay, it allows you to just slow down in your session, focus on each side of your back, each lat at a time, overloading it correctly. I highly suggest that this movement you put into your back training split immediately. So as you've seen now in our workout, we have only really hit the lats. Now the other two main parts of the back that I really never used to give any focus towards was my traps and my rhomboids. I used to do the T-bar row, but I never really knew what I was actually doing when I was doing it. I was literally just gripping it and fucking ripping it, but with zero understanding and zero intent. What we're gonna do for this movement, okay, is you're gonna grip it in a pronated grip. You're gonna put your hands a little bit further out on the T-bar row, and you're essentially going to just focus on almost like rolling your shoulder blades over the bench so that you can get a full stretch on your rhomboids. And then when you row up, make sure that you are rowing with your elbows and you're coming up and over in order to squeeze your traps and your whole upper back. I think a lot of people do the T-bar row, but I don't think a lot of them actually do it with correct intent, as I've said. I never used to do it correctly. But when I made the shift from thinking about rowing with my hands to rowing with my elbows and where my elbows finish, it made the biggest difference in my back training. Again, we're going to do one heavy top set, and then we're going to do a back off set. But what we're going to do is on the back off set, you're going to do a set to max reps, finish it, go again, max reps, and you're going to keep doing that until you can only do 3 proper, correct form reps. In that way, you're just going to be getting an absolute stupid pump, and you're going to be overloading the muscle correctly. T-bar row is a brilliant movement. One of the reasons why I love it so much is that it is basically a chest-supported, secure version of a bent over row. Now, I know a lot of people are probably going to hear that and go like,
oh, but a bent over row is really good for stability and overall core work.
I get that. But when I first started training, I would do bent over rows and I would expend so much energy on actually just trying to keep myself stable as opposed to actually activating the muscles correctly. So I made the shift from doing barbell bent over rows to a T-bar row, and my lower back has loved it. My rhomboids and my traps have grown exponentially since moving away from that. And as you can see with all of the movements so far, what I've basically done is I've tried to eliminate as many variables towards injury as possible. Okay, longevity is the name of the game when you are a natural athlete, all right? When you're lifting weights and you are natural, all right? It's very important to focus on understanding that you want to be doing this for as long as possible. Bent over rows is great exercise, I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying if there is an option to achieve the same muscle activation but in a safer manner, best believe I'm going to choose to do it that way. So we're going to get into it, and then we have one more movement that I almost know every single one of you is sleeping on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the final movement that I wish that I knew how to do correctly much earlier on in my training career. It is the cable rope pullovers. Now, I obviously knew about this movement when I first started training, but the twist is the double rope. All right, now this is a hack that I feel like every single person who trains back should know about. Why do we use two ropes? All right, extended range of motion and greater contraction of the muscle. I've spoken about range of motion throughout this entire workout. All right, when I use one rope, all right, I get a good enough stretch, but I finish too early. That's what she said. Whereas if I use two ropes, all right, I'm able to get a greater range of motion on the stretch and then also follow through and be able to drive my elbows further back. Bro, or you use it, or do you want it just the attachment? Or you good? No worries. Now, some gyms have a nice long rope attachment, all right? Most commercial gyms don't, and that's fine, all right? You've just got to find two ropes, all right, and attach them to one cable input. I'm going to show you basically, right, the difference between using one rope and using two ropes. When I use one rope, all right, I get a great stretch on the lats, but then when I come through, I finish here. Now, when I use two ropes, right, I get the same stretch, but I'm able to drive my elbows much further back. And that means that we are optimizing the movement at the most stretched position and the most shortened position of the muscle. All right, now that we're at the tail end of the workout, okay, we're gonna do more pump-orientated work. So we are still gonna work up to one heavy top set, but then we're gonna do two back-off sets, right? And they're both gonna be at about 60%, and you're gonna go to true failure with max reps, all right? After this, you should have the most ridiculous pump ever.
Feeling like I took a Zanny in that Maybach. I ain't dead from the drugs, no they hate that. They will never understand and I hate that. If there's a cure to fix my mind, I'ma take that. Feeling like I took a Zanny in that Maybach. I ain't dead from the drugs, no they hate that. They will never understand and I hate that. If there's a cure to fix my mind, I'ma take that. Been a minute since I had a God complex. Suicidal tendencies ain't gone yet. Urge to kill myself daily ain't gone yet. Shorty tell me if I'm always in the wrong, yeah. All I do is push you away, do you hate it? Never truly letting go, you're my favorite. If I ain't money, tell me why the fuck I chase it. Cause that's the way capitalism had to make it. I got problems, I got enemies, imagine I was raised on Erica, but doing Black Sabbath. The way I drink affection like
All right. That is it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the second episode of The Cut Chronicles. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you learned something. If you did find it beneficial, make sure to give it a like, comment, tell me what you thought of the video, give me some constructive criticism, and tell me what you guys would like to see from the rest of this series. Like I said, it's just me documenting my journey, and that I'm super grateful that people care enough to watch, that you've taken the time out of your day to watch my videos. So thank you so much for that. Make sure to subscribe and follow along for the journey. I will try my best to obviously make these videos as entertaining and valuable as possible. So like I said, just give me some constructive criticism in the comment section. Tell me what you would like to see next. But that is it from me. I will see you in the next one.